there is, the best there was, the best there will ever be.
You know, there's times when you're in life and you're going after a dream, going after a goal, and you find yourself walking on that road alone, you know, where most people may not even understand what you're doing. They may not even understand what you're going through. You may not even understand what you're trying to achieve. But on that long road, on that very long road, you gotta focus yourself to know that it's all worth it. See, dreams and goals and aspirations, it's one of the most loneliest things you can go through. People are not ever gonna get it. You're gonna hear it quick, get a job. You're gonna hear, what are you still doing that for? You're gonna hear, that's stupid. Families gonna betray you, friends will betray you. Even you may feel like betraying yourself. But you gotta understand, being uncomfortable is exactly what you need to do to shape yourself towards becoming great. Being uncomfortable is exactly what you need to do in order to become who God wants you to become. Other than that, if you're not willing to suffer, you never get blessings. That's the bottom line. Sufferation leads to blessings. You have to be willing to just go through it. That'll get you your ultimate good and are forever. You know, like, to those who don't know me, man, I was born Joel Powell. That's my name. But those that know me in the early days know me as Ninja from Ninja Riders. But those that know me now, it's Joel NR Powell, aka the NR Superstar. Born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. You know, to a Trinidadian mother and Jamaican father. You know what I'm saying? And life growing up was fun. You know, it was fun. You know, watching my dad play music as a young youth, and just learning how that evolved. Because most young kids in them time, man, 80s, 90s, had a Jamaican father that was playing music. It was like a part of the qualifications to be in Canada. And I don't know if it was a part of a requirement to enter the country, where every Jamaican man had a record collection in some way, shape, or form, sound system and speakers and all that stuff like that. You know, and that's what got me into, you know, the music game. You know, like I said, I've said this many times before, watching my dad do it. Before there was an NR Entertainment, there was something called, remember some memories, this was something called Tabletop Records, where it was me, my good brethren DJ, my other friend Clive. You know, we formed a little organization called Tabletop Records. And what it was, we used to bang on the table. It used to be like this. I'm sorry. You know, that's what we used to do. Make beats on the table and just DJ, just make up some lyrics and just, you know, just have fun. And that's what it was called, Tabletop Records. And our first performance was at our camping trip, you know, back in grade 7, our camping trip at Albion Hills, you know. And, you know, that was my first ever live performance. And we tore the place apart. We did. It was fun. We had a great time, you know, but, you know, that shows you, like, when you're a young kid, you know, you did something that was like, okay, this is fun, right? But guess what? It evolved into what it is today, you know. Growing up, I had 5 dads, you know what I'm saying, that kept Joel on that pathway, so to speak, you know what I'm saying. My dad, Mas Lester, everybody knows him as that, you know. Uncle Dudley, my godfather, may God rest his soul. Man called Teddy, you know. Winston, and always and forever Louis, you know, my stepfather. You know what I'm saying? Like 5 men that stood with me through the test of time. There were times when they were all there, and there were times that they were there in separate segments. But I will tell you that they all had a hand in sculpting Joel in some way, shape, or form. They had a hand in sculpting me and showing me certain things. And I'll tell people out there, you know, if you have a son, do not underestimate a man's involvement in his life. Ladies, do not think you can raise a boy child by yourself. I'm living proof. It took 5 men, like I said, And I have men I met even after these 5 men that all contributed towards Joel's life in some way, shape, or form. You know, honor and respect to Sam. You know, who gave me my early days playing music in his basement and in parties, giving me an audience, giving me my first record boxes, my rack to put my sound on, and then there's Jagite sound. You know, those are people that contributed along the way, like men again that contributed along the way. So you cannot underestimate what a man being a part of your son's life. You know, that's a shout out to the ladies out there who have sons coming up, and you want to keep your son out of trouble more times, ladies. I'm telling you, get a man involved in his life. Don't if you're a single mother and there's no man in his life, get him a mentor, get him into a program where he can meet other men that can help him to grow and evolve, because it was hard at times. I'm telling you, it was hard at times, but to the grace of God, I survived it. I never forgot where I came from the equipment, everything. I never forgot where I came from. Never ever forgot where I came from. Never ever forgot where I came from. I always learned over the years of my life to keep the history flowing. Keep the history flowing. I never forgot where I came from. Ever. Never forgot where I came from. Never forgot the roots. I always kept it real to myself to know that Ninja Rider's sound is a globalized brand. Shout out to sensormedia.net, my homie Primo. You know what I'm saying? When Ninja Riders first started out in my mom's basement, it was me and DJ Little T, we went to high school together, and that was the beginning of Ninja Riders. Like I showed him that I wanted to start up a song, and I introduced him and showed him to him, man, we could do this together. And me and him teamed up when we were in high school together, man. And we teamed up, and he actually did something for me that hadn't happened in years, because he brought me back into the sound system cassette tapes. And me and him were selling tapes out of our backpacks in school, and that's how we used to use the money after that to buy records. He'd get the tapes, give it to me. I go home at night and I run it to the cassette deck, come back to school, and me and him our backpacks would be full of cassette tapes, and we're going around selling tapes to people who inside the school. I take the same money and go buy records. If you're a DJ, I don't care how long you've been DJ. If you're a DJ, you need to own some form of vinyl. If not a lot, you need to own some, because the music you need to have musical ownership. Right? You can't just depend on a computer and a laptop. You need to own some. The hardest thing was convincing your family, especially, that you're doing something that's worthy. That was the toughest part. That was the toughest part in getting involved in the arts and entertainment industry, was convincing your family. Not really your friends, but your family, that you're doing something that's worthy, because nobody believed in it. It was I remember having non-stop arguments with my mom about, the music, and she was upset about it. She didn't like the music playing in their house. She didn't like people. Like, I had an internet radio show, and I remember in the middle of our online song class, my mom was getting mad because she didn't want. She said she didn't know who was coming in her house, and it was just something that it became so hard to do, to build something substantial, because people didn't understand it. So I had to keep on having to venture out, and I had to be like, almost like, I felt like at times I was like a ping pong ball machine. I'm in and I'm out, because no one didn't get it. No one didn't understand what we were doing. So it was me, Little T, Kid Madness, Ricky Hunter, Natalie Ninja. That was the NR Entertainment team. And like year by year, everybody went and did their own thing. The only person that stuck with me all the way right across the board was Natalie Ninja. But everybody else because it was hard for us to stay united, but we couldn't do anything. We always had a problem. And the problems were never really with us. We had our days of this, that, and the other. There was never an issue where we couldn't solve it between the group of us, as colleagues, as friends, or whatever, because we naturally cared about one another. But when the lack thereof of support, the parents, and the arguing and the complaining and the bickering, like I'm not I'm not angry at those things, but I would say to any parent out there that has a child that's an entrepreneur, or has a child that wants to get involved in arts and entertainment, give them a shot, man. You know, give them a shot. Shout out to my homegirl Janet Millington, one of the first people to ever give us a shot. Like, you know, Janet helped us to meet reggae artists like Freddie McGregor. She gave us a chance to be heard on a bigger platform. When we developed an idea for some magazine called NR Pages, which lasted for a good while. We were interviewed where it turned into DVD interviews, right? You know, but a lot of the elders did not get behind us, man. We were young and budding, and we were pushing and shoving, and a lot of the elders did not get behind us, man. And it was a hard journey to go through. You know, when I was interning at City Kid Music, a record store in Toronto, and well, at first I interned at a studio, a recording studio called Sound Around, again in Toronto, and then I went to City Kid Music. During that time, I wasn't really planning on being an artist. I was just learning the business side of everything, you know, from recording in a studio to me going into a record store learning about retail and distribution. It was never about me, like Joel, recording. But when I was in the studio, Sound Around, we had a project to complete, and it was to record a song. The band gave us a bunch of different things, but the closest thing to related to me was to record a song. So I was like, yo, man, I don't know record no song, but I didn't know, I wasn't sure what I'm doing. But I said, you know what, maybe I could produce the song. So at the time, I didn't know nobody that was really doing music like that. But I knew one person, and a virgin of mine. Back then he was called Kid Madness, but now he's called Kalar the Lyricist. And literally, the day when I had to do the project is a day, literally, I went to him and asked him if he wants to follow me to the studio to record this song. And I had the song written. The song was already written. And I said, listen, man, I'm going to write this song, and you just have to say the words. So he's like, where's the studio? I said, we're going to take the bus and go there right now. He looked at me and said, yeah, let's go there. We'll have to go right now. She's like, no. She's like, okay, yeah, cool, okay, I'm coming. And then me and him literally went to the studio. And while we're on the bus, he took the lyrics that I had, and he's like, okay then, let me say it this way. Let me say it that way. On the bus, we're doing this, you know. We never rehearsed it, we didn't practice it, we just go in there and all this to go do it. And we went there, and we recorded a song called Y'all Love Tomorrow. You know? What take them y'all love tomorrow? Walkless, y'all them are going up in a sorrow. Oh man, it was a reggae song, and you know, it was just something we flung together, but literally it gave birth to me actually recording. You know, I had to understand something. At that time when I stopped working with Kid Madness, he wanted to do his own thing, and I decided, like, you know, what people never knew was I had so much marketing plans for recording artists. I'm a person, I like to plan out things. So without an artist, I had nowhere to execute the plan. So I had to sit down and be like, okay then, what am I gonna do with all this? So first I was like, okay, let me find another artist. But then I was like, I didn't want to go through trying to find somebody and see if they're serious and go through all of that. So one day I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was just like, I was asking him if he knew anybody who wanted to be an artist, and I would get behind them. But then he was like, well, with all those stuff you're doing, why don't you do it? And I'm like, nah, man, I don't want to be no artist. But he said, no, bro. He said, no. And this is what grabbed me. He's like, no, man, if you do it, you understand the business side of this. So it's easier for you. It took a while to convince me. But another friend of mine actually introduced me to a producer. I told him, say, listen, man, I don't want to do reggae music. If I got to do music, I'm going to rap. So he didn't need a guy who was just starting out as a producer. I said, no. He told him about me, and me and him linked up. Now, I wasn't as polished as I am right now back then. So when me and him linked up and we decided to start writing songs, it took me forever to record a song. It was like punching me in one line, one line, one line. And the dude never had the patience for that. He wanted someone who can just one take, and I wasn't in that position. So our working relationship didn't last that long because he wanted a rapper to just do his thing on cue, and I wasn't there yet. I was there on paper, but I wasn't there recording. You know, so when he told me the same dude was like, "Oh man, you need to go back to DJ because maybe rapping is not for you." He kind of came at me a different way. I think it was more so out of frustration because he just wanted a rapper to just work and that's it. So I ended up just saying, you know what, I ain't gonna do this again. I went back to DJ. But I had this itch in me that said, you know what, man, I just had one person to believe in me, a producer, somebody to give me some beats and I can just practice and da da da. And one day my phone rang and I answered it. And it was a friend of mine that I hadn't heard from in years. Shout out to Rome Hefty, H2O. Shout out to him because he called me on one January Saturday. Well, I remember it was snowing outside, and he was like, "Yo, Joel, that's calling me because I started producing music and I have these beats." And I remember talking. I said, "What? You started producing?" He said, "Yeah." So I asked him where he's at, and literally he moved into a house that was literally 15 minutes from my front door. So I said, "Yo, I'm coming to you now." And I went over to his house and he started playing me these beats, and I was like, "Whoa." That's what I'm talking about. That's what I needed to hear. So I was like, man, get these on a CD for me. And he was like, I don't have a burner. I said, yo, so you have a burner? He said, yeah, but it doesn't burn. I said, okay, fine, come. Let me show you what I got set up at my house. So we drove back to my house. And he brought the beat on a USB stick, and then I burnt it on my computer. And I remember, man, when I wrote my verse to that song, it was incredible. You know what I'm saying? And it really, 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 really showed me that I can rap and I can record. Because me and him and his brother, shout out to C Greasy, we recorded a song together and that over that beat, and it was phenomenal. And that gave birth to me taking it more seriously. I started to rap, started to put out music, and that later on down the line, man, that led to me opening up for Tech Nine, me opening up for Jada Kiss, me being the only recording artist out of Canada to perform on a Juneteenth Atlanta stage, closing the show with the late great Angie Stone. Me putting out the 7 issues EP, the Game Changer EP, the soundtrack to the book Black Empowerment Minority Issues, that, me recording with Little Easy E, like those are the things that changed the game for me. That really took me to being
I always believe
a
in
recording
business
artist.
ownership. I was heavily influenced by the late great Easy E, Master P, Tech Nine, guys who basically funded their dreams themselves. I aspire like that. And that's what made me create things where I retained ownership. Because to be honest, I've never had a manager. I never had a booking agent. And if you just search my name on the internet, you'll think I had all those things and more. If you just search Joel NR Powell, you'll think that I had all them things behind me. But it's just the way how I did things. Like I would learn the business of what I'm doing, and I developed products like my book, I own it. The film, I own it. The music, I own it. And I thought like that because, when you go through rejection, for example, you pitch yourself to people. Like I know a lot of creators pitch themselves to people and they think, okay, I have this real great idea and someone's going to sign me. I came at the business like that. I did. But then after a while, I realized that not only was it taking too long, I realized that if I went straight to the people, like the public, then at the end of the day, they can get to know me up front and they'll continuously support me. So that's what I did. I decided that I would go straight to the public with my work and develop a relationship with the people directly. So there was no middleman. It was a straight authenticity from the jump. And I kept doing that from Ninja Riders to putting out books, to putting out film, to putting out music, to DJing. I always set it up where I'm dealing with the public directly. And that's what got me into media houses. That's what got me into magazines. That got me onto big websites, you name it. Because I believe in ownership. I always wanted to make my mom proud of me. That is something that stuck with me for the majority of my life, where I just wanted to always be able to know that what I'm doing will make my mother be proud of me. I'm my mother's only boy. My mother has 4 children, 3 girls, 1 boy. That's me. And that stuck in my heart, you know. So a lot of times I would push myself extra harder so I can make her proud of me. So I would never give up. I wouldn't back down. I wouldn't I wouldn't I wouldn't I wouldn't think to myself that I could lose. So I would always push extra harder so my mom would be proud of me. And a lot of times, you know, I've accomplished tremendous things. People tell me all the time, well, you've done so many great things with your life. But sometimes to this very day, I don't know if I ever made my mom proud of me. And that's something that I'm gonna have to live with, because I don't know if I ever did anything to make her proud of me. You know, I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm not complaining. I just want my life to actually be an inspiration to people. I know I'm not the only one out there. There could be somebody who wants to make their parents proud of them. There could be somebody who wants to make their dad proud of them, or their mother proud, of whoever proud of them, and they've experienced that. And I will tell them that, listen, even when you're experiencing those things, don't make it become a hindrance. Put it in your heart and soul that maybe one day they will. Maybe one day they'll come in front of you and say, son, I'm proud of you, or daughter, I'm proud of you. Maybe, but don't hold them to that. You know, don't hold them to that. Forgive them. If you have a relationship with them, forgive them, hug them, and keep it moving. If you don't have a relationship with them, forgive them nonetheless, and keep it moving. Because when you're living your life in purpose, that's between you and God. That's not between you and anybody else. You're living your purpose, and your purpose is not meant to be fulfilled through people. Often it's meant to be fulfilled through God, and then He will find you the people. My legacy, is to be the Brett the Hitman Hart of my generation. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be for arts and entertainment when it comes to entrepreneurship. That's what I set out to do. At this stage in my life, is to set out to become that guy. That I combine different parts of entertainment, from DJing to writing to filmmaking to music, and I turned it into something that's recognized around the world, not just in my community or my hometown, but around the world, that people can resonate with and know and identify me with, that I did that. That's the legacy that I leave on the world, to inspire the next generation to do the same thing. Because you don't do what I do just to satisfy yourself. You do it so it can inspire someone to even come and outdo you. It's like you're passing the torch. So you can't get into the mindset of thinking it's about you. It may start with you, but when it's your time to do so, you can say, you know what, you passed the baton. Whether that baton goes to your children, or your grandchildren, or somebody else's child, somewhere down the lines of life, you got to be willing to say, you know what, let me pass the baton. Let me take it to another level. Let me give it to someone who has the ability to take it up a notch. And that's the legacy I want to leave on this world. That I was the guy that inspired the person out there to come and do what I did, but even better. That I inspire people to never to give up on what they're doing. That I inspire people to think outside the box. Me being from Toronto, Canada, and me going from Toronto, Canada, in my mom's basement to doing shows across the United States in arts and entertainment. Those are the things that I look at as defining moments, defining levels of growth with my legacy in life. And it's the most joyful thing for me to ever do.
It's one of the most joyful things for me to ever do. That I was able to do that, and I want people to know that for every person who ever supported me, supported the cause, I want them to know that health is wealth. Look after yourself. Don't get caught up into this business to the point that you're not looking after yourself. Trust me. No matter how much you want to make it, don't sacrifice yourself to say you're going to make it. Don't screw over anybody in this world thinking that you're going to get somewhere. You can't prosper for someone else's misery. So you may think you're winning, and then all of a sudden you're back to zero. You understand what I'm saying? Do not practice manipulation. You think that manipulating somebody will get you there faster. Yeah, it may work in the beginning, but rest assured, it's going to come to a screeching halt. Strike a fair deal. Don't rip people off just to get from one place to the next. Be humble. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Don't act like because now you've made it, quote unquote, you don't need to show anybody no respect and kindness. You don't need to show love to those that came before you, those that helped you along the way. Don't burn bridges just because you think that you don't need those bridges again to cross over. What goes up will come down. It's a law of gravity. So these are all the things I want to pass on down the line to people. And when in doubt, I'm going to be real. Learn your craft and learn to do a lot of this work yourself. Until you're able to build a team and get people beside you, learn to help yourself. Learn to help yourself. And once you're able to do those things, you have no idea how far ahead of this game you'll get. You'll be able to capture things that you never ever thought. You never ever thought you'd be able to do. You know what I'm saying? The NR superstar. Joel NR Powell.
Best year was the best there will ever be. Salute to Joel. Back in 21, doors closed, no warning. Paperwork denied, whole life start falling. I felt like when Sean screwed Brett. I hit the pavement and everything went left. Credit cards maxed out, still try my luck. No income, bills just piling up. Had a roof for a minute, felt out of place. Had to figure out my way, still without a place. Stayed strong for the vision, never fully focused. Then depression kicked in, you would hardly notice. My mind raced at a pace that I couldn't do it. I laid down in my tears as I went through it. Selling pieces of my life just to buy time. Couldn't work day to day, just online. Through pain, suffering shows who you are. Day in the life of the NR superstar. Back against the wall, yes, but I never fold. Had to walk through the fire just to get the goal. Never gave up, God willing so far. Day in the life of the NR superstar. Back against the wall, yes, but I never fold. Had to walk through the fire just to get the goal. Never gave up, God willing so far. Day in the life of the NR superstar. Up in cold kitchens, washing plates for a dream. 2-hour walks daily, what that really means. 6 months in the grind to survive the phase. While the world kept spinning, stuck in a maze. Late nights, huge fights on the basement floor. With no hope in my eyes, feeling insecure. There's a war going on inside my head. I can't hide from my thoughts, I'm being misled. I went ghost for some years, now I resurrect. Put some pressure to this game as I reconnect. Now I'm back, residence, permanent address. Yes, empowering the world back to finesse. Took silent strategy, turned it to press. Every loss was a lesson, mastered the flex. Through pain, separation, show who you are. Day in the life of the NR superstar. Back against the wall, yes, but I never fold. Had to walk through the fire just to get the goal. Never gave up, God willing so far. Day in the life of the NR superstar. Back against the wall, yes, but I never fold. Had to walk through the fire just to get the goal. Never gave up, God willing so far. Day in the life of the NR superstar. Back back against the wall, yes, but I never fold. Had to walk through the fire just to get to the goal. Never gave up, God willing so far. Day in the life of the NR superstar. Back against the wall, yes, but I never fold. Had to walk through the fire just to get to the goal. Never gave up, God willing so far. Day in the life of the NR superstar.